Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be carrying on with February's exceptional story, The Hollow Triptych, and we're about to enter the Painted Prison. 3 drops of honey, 12 inverted mirrors, 9 candles in conjunction, safe entrance and exit for one dreaming mind, and the only way to restore your restful sleep. The painted landscape beneath its coiling brushstrokes remains a mirrored surface. It bows and ripples at your touch, like a wind-touched lake, and swallows you greedily. The glass passes over your face, thick and warm, a tide of silver honey. And then, easy as breathing, you are not where you were. The world is hypnotic and shifting. The ever-coiling landscape of textured strokes and unreal colours. Lines and gestures become depths and heights, daubed in impressionistic flourishes. A field of wheat, a village, the looming crests of dusk-lit hills. Stars spin far above, trailing their lights behind them. So we can either walk through the coiling wheat, or we can investigate the painted town. Let's walk through the coiling wheat. Insofar as distance has meaning here, a landscape sprawls before you. The wheat fields are rich and textured, a rippling expanse of dusk-tinted umber and speckled green. Before hills that rise and warp like cresting waves, a little town hunkers beneath the sky. The ground is solid beneath your feet, but the perspective is off. The colours too bright and too close. Even as you walk the winding pathway through the whispering wheat, the world feels thin and one-dimensional. Flat planes telescope into dimensionality as your attention falls on them. The weight of looking transforming sign into signified. Your feet carry you deeper into a space that should not have depth, like walking into the rippled reflection of a world cast upon a silvered lake. Let's investigate the painted town. Perhaps the Triptych's captive Finger King has found itself a homestead. The doors are mere ornamentation. They do not open and sit flush with the walls, absent any handles or knockers. Wood and brick swims under your eyes, cast in teal and turquoise by the Triptych's shifting dusk. Beneath your palm, the walls feel rough, like canvas. Little oil paint dioramas are visible within each window, suggested in sketchy shapes of warm ochre, blazing cosmogon, hungry pelican, and azure blue. Crowds gather around tiny, abstract squares of canvas, bearing artists up on their shoulders. The sounds of chatter and applause echo as if emerging from a deep. There is nothing here that the painter did not put here. We can scale the shifting hills beyond the town. Their peaks do not seem much closer than when you started, but perhaps that doesn't matter. This is not a normal landscape. These hills were painted to be backdrop rather than foreground. Whenever your attention strays elsewhere, their rolling peaks retreat back into the distance, and you find yourself once more in the village square or waist high in wafting spirals of wind-whirled wheat. You need to fix your gaze wholly and utterly on their bulk, never wavering, for them to allow you to approach. It is difficult to discern the distance between you and them, where usually the finer details of an object resolve and clarify the closer you get. These hills were not painted with any finer details to give. They remain murky, thick-stroked hillocks of rhythmic paint, until your feet carry you over them and into the lands beyond. Here, the landscape is vague and unfinished. Ghostly sketches pencil shapes onto an unevenly primed expanse. Block colours describe shapes that might be trees, or clouds, or movements of light. Structural brushstrokes of rust and ochre dwindle into dry emptiness. The ground that they draw with them falling off into void. Beyond, that is only silver, reflecting yourself back at you at all angles and sizes. A crowded, echoing silhouette. And beyond even that, something coils in wait. So we can either wade through shifting shapes and colours. The landscape here is less settled, less hospitable than the township you left behind you. Or we can peer beneath the paint. Here, where the pigments cover the triptych only thinly, you might peel back the paint and examine the structures beneath. Let's wade through the shifting shapes and colours. Deeper in triptych, the paints have not yet set, or have not yet adopted their final shapes. Their vestigial dreams of crushed pigments push against their assigned boundaries. Charcoal undersketches spark and flicker in a memory of fire. Shards of the sky's lapis lazuli grow in jagged, crystalline shapes, disturbing the silhouettes of trees. From within the deep reds of the earth burst forth the ghosts of conchoiles in panicked, carmine swarms. The dreaming nature of the triptych pushes back against the stultifying tide of paint. Let's peer beneath the paint. Pigment cracks and splits, leaving rents in the skin of the world. Beneath some strokes of viridian and violet, the off-white of the painter's primer remains intact. But beneath others, the whole of this imposed reality is laid bare. Scales of cyan and cream fall from the flank of a hill. Strips of russet bark peel from the trunk of a gnarled tree. The landscape reveals its structural supports, the heaped topographies upon which this painted world is projected. Coils and coils of empty snake skins languish beneath the colour, torn and incomplete, bathed in tides of vibrant paint. They are vast and myriad, the discarded scales of 1,000 towering serpents painted over and made scenery. We can enter the furthest depths of the painted prison. There, a glint amongst the silver that is neither your reflection nor the touch of a painter's brush. Even as you get close to where you believe its true body lies, the Finger King is indistinguishable from its own reflection. Uncountable heads bow to peer at you. The mirrored expanse flashes briefly purple as 1,000 forked tongues taste your approach. A coiled, writhing tangle of white, scaled snakes, so pale as to be almost translucent. Far, far in the distance, on the cusp of the reflected curve of the infinite, your reflected ghosts kneel before the captive serpent. Well, that is your reflection's business. You are here on your own. It is a many-scaled gap, a hissing, intangible coil of patchy, ghostly snakes. In places, the Finger King is so insubstantial as to be barely perceptible, just a stretch of impossible parallax. In others, it is huge and bursting as a hydra, coils on recursive fanged heads. It is at once too vast for its prison, and barely here at all. Let's approach the Finger King and its many reflections. It looks different from outside its body, paler and smaller, despite its 1,000-bodied bulk. This is undoubtedly the being from your dreams. It lowers a black-eyed head, and its reflections follow suit. The impression is of being surrounded, caught within the Finger King's far-reaching coils. Little mauve tongues flicker and retract. Its voice, when it speaks, is sibilant and strained, and emerges from deep within your skull. "Interloper, you are the dreamer," it wheezes. "We are the dream." It bobs one of its heads, and the movement reverberates through its recursive reflections. "Once we were called." It produces a breathy, glottal sound in your mind. You recognize some of the syllables from your sleepless nights studying the language of the fourth city. "But to you, We are the conjunction of absence. Let's ask why it brought us here. It is the source of the dreams that have plagued you so. Well, now you stand here before it. You have brought yourself here. The dry voice inside your mind is monotonous and dry. We made no promises and brokered no deals. The translucent head draws almost close enough to touch, only to reveal itself a glassy reflection of some more distant original. But the terms of our imprisonment force us to honesty, and so we admit we had hoped you would come. Okay, let's learn of the circumstances of its entrapment. The scroll from the painter's studio told part of the story. Perhaps the conjunction has another perspective. In the days of the Iskan, we grew powerful, plump, arrogant. The betrayer priests believed they tricked us, and perhaps they did. Perhaps we were simply too proud. A slow tide of cyan has reached the dorsal scales of one of the conjunction's outer selves. It shivers in displeasure, flecks of blue-green falling from its skin. We were made complicit in our own entrapment. Our own promises were turned against us. Now we are compelled by our own word to offer our gifts to the holders of our trinket cell. What can you tell me about the Recondite Painter? He owns its ancient prison now, and is flooding the mirrored plains with vibrant paint. We were without jailer for so long, trapped and forgotten in the rubble of your lost cities. In the ghostly gaps in the Finger King's skin, broken images flicker, fallen columns and crumbled statuary. The slow decay of a nation. And then the artist came, stumbled across our ruined place in honeyed stupor. He promised us freedom, promised us instantiation. 100 snakes writhe against the glass, a furious boil. So we promised talents in return, skill enough to fulfill his naive desires. Vast coils curl around you. Gaps in the scales reveal smaller bodies, lesser snakes guiding the movements of the larger skins. But this, a head spits at the encroaching art, is not a body, not even another prison. It is death, fenced into a single shape, dismembered self by self until we are left an object, an image, a thing to be seen. For the first time, the assembled heads of the Finger King emit their own hisses rather than projecting voices into your mind. It leaves no room to doubt its displeasure. We can put aside the is. Now we are desirous of nothing more than a return to our siblings at the dome. Can we probe the nature of its promise? Why continue helping the painter if doing so is killing it? A sibilant hiss rushes through your skull like a shooting pain. This is, you realize what passes for a laugh. What is a promise? 100 heads drop to meet your eyes. A sequence of words that transforms what is not into what will be. We are what is not, and we are that which wishes to be. So what are we if we break our word? Nothing. Hollow skins, lorn things without a future. Our word is our intent, and it is all we possess. Heads turn away, coil in on themselves in disgust. Forsaken creatures that you are, whose words mean nothing at all. Well, let's ask how they might be freed. Every lock has its key, and if you are to achieve anything, you must know what, or what not, to do. The question we hoped you would ask, but we wonder, do you ask because you wish to free us, or because you do not? The voice inside your head does not waver from its soft monotone. It's impossible to tell if the Finger King is hopeful or resigned. This facsimile entangled in a bubble, apart from the parabola, crude, effective. All around you is the faint whisper of scales passing over glass. Do not smash the mirrors, interloper. We are not held within an egg, that we might be hatched back into our homeland. Beyond is nothing but the dark. You might call it death. For freedom, one course only. The Finger King's 1,000 heads susurrate in concord. Our jailer must release us of our obligations and of our prison, as was his word. We have to convince the jailer to release them. Do we know if that's a good idea or not? We can try and discern its honesty. The Finger Kings are master disassemblers, the proverbial serpents in the garden. Is this image the reality, or just another deceptive artwork? Should we try it? 60% chance? Oh, we succeeded. The conjunction of absence is an ailing, 1,000-voiced thing. Is this an illusion or truth? Even among its myriad reflections, it is difficult to tell which tangle of serpents is real and which is mere image. The Finger King is imprisoned. That is the central, inalienable truth around which its argument is founded. The shed skins. Were they left as set dressing? Or are they truly the remains of its painted over selves? Is its appearance of ghostly fragility a projection, or the accurate picture of an isolated soul? You, still within a mirror, after all. Much of this may remain under the Finger King's control. Didn't really help me that much. Let's see if we can perform an examination of the interior of the prison using our glasswork quality, which isn't very high. Oh, it's at 3, it could be worse. Slowly encroaching tide of paint and colour now withstanding. How well is this ancient cell holding up? Oh, we succeeded that as well. From within, the structure of the triptych occludes itself. The pattern remains. If, in parabola, a mirror is a door, then these doors open only on themselves. An isolated threefold reflection, where one exit opens only on another entrance. Directions have little meaning. Out may well be further in, and escape might bring you back to your cell. Only the creeping mould of the painter's landscape makes a lie of this reflected infinity, and it does not offer any additional means of exit. Without your own anchor points in the gallery, you would be hard-pressed to escape yourself. We can promise to help it. A promise to a Finger King is no small thing. Perhaps you even intend to keep it. We can agree to nothing. Make no promises you cannot keep. Leave as many avenues open as you can. It's only prudent. Or reaffirm its imprisonment. It is simply attempting to renege on its deal with the Recondite Painter, to attain its freedom without paying the agreed-upon price. You will not help. I'm going to agree to nothing, for now. The Finger King's slitted eyes are alien and unreadable. We expected nothing more, hisses the voice in your head. It coils, turn inward, and the creature suddenly seems too small to cast such a huge reflection. Somewhere back in the painter's gallery, the candle that meters out the minutes of your visit here is burning down to the wick. The tug of the reel is a minor pull, but then an insistent one. You are yanked from behind, the preparations of the fourth city priest charting your safe exit from the Finger King's prison. There is a feeling like surfacing after a long time underwater, and you sit once more before the triptych. You! The voice behind you is cold. The Recondite Painter stands silhouetted in the doorway to the gallery, hurt and betrayal etched onto his face by the light of your flickering candles. He is in a nightshirt, brogues badly forced onto bare feet. Panted breaths cloud the cold air. It is clear he has run down the stairs in a hurry. I dreamt it, your footsteps in my painting. The dark shadows under his eyes are accentuated in the candlelight. I didn't want it to be true. An empty hand closes into a fist and then opens again. You're plotting against me with a thing. You're trying to take it away. You can either calm the painter with honeyed words. It's all out in the open now. No, it's secret, and he knows you know it. Why keep up the charade? Or we can intimidate the painter into honesty. This game of lies has grown tiresome. It's time for him to speak plainly, or come to harm. Let's calm him with honeyed words. The desperate fury drains from his face, and he slumps, a marionette with his strings cut. The Recondite Painter looks grim and tired. You know, it's in your dreams, isn't it? He doesn't wait for an answer. I knew. As soon as people saw it, I knew. It was only a matter of time, but I was finally getting noticed. He is pacing now, never looking at you, never looking at the unveiled triptych at your back. The others are gone. There was no one else left to lose, to harm. He runs a hand through his hair, leaving it a rumpled mess, then rounds on you once more. But you lied too, said you were a court artist, but you're so much more, aren't you? His eyes have a manic look. Please, I'll do anything. I'll tell you the truth. The Recondite Painter moves to veil the triptych once more, restless eyes taking in your own candles and mirrors, the stolen scroll with which you had accessed his artwork. It's a liar. He runs a gnarled hand down his face. His thumb leaves a smudge of graphite on one cheekbone. I don't know what lies it told you, but it is a liar. They all are. Well, let's listen to his side of the story. His gaze flicks to your fists, your feet, the covered triptych, the door. He seems willing to talk, for now. You know how cruel dreams are. He does not wait for a reply, words tripping over themselves in his haste to be understood. I do. The most beautiful things you could conceive of. And they flee the mind on waking. He rubs his eyes. We'd never catch them, never paint them, gone, like wind in a net. Even on the surface they were cruel, fleeting perfections, leaving us diminished in their passing. I just wanted to capture them in the waking world. Then, the black madness of the fall, and afterwards, honey. There's no need to ask what he means. His pacing brings him close to you, and you can smell a cloying sweetness about him. At will, access to the landscapes of our imagination. I was... He manages to level his gaze at you. You have to understand, it was a revelation, inspiration, on tap. Ask who he means by we. He is, at least now, alone and singular in his peculiar aesthetic school. There were more of us. What looked like a sign morphs into a strangled sob, making his speech breathy and gasping. So many more. Almost a school. The Tsarines, Celestials, and us. Not anymore. Just me now. The Recondite Painter crouches against the gallery wall, head in his hands. We were going to capture our dreams and bring them home to us. Remember them, paint them, frame them. But the honey, parabola, we didn't know. As we looked to catch dreams on canvas, parabola looked to capture us too. Took us, stole them. His hands still cradle his temples, but his mouth is visible, curled into a sneer. Well, let's prompt him to continue. Taken by what? You have your suspicions, but it's time for them to be confirmed. What do you think? His reply is acid and sharp, and he whips out an arm towards the triptych. Parasites in serpent form stole their bodies of my friends with bargains and deals, fame, talent, sweet dreams. All could be theirs if they could meet the price. Took everything from me, one by one, love by love, and if the serpents ever... I don't think I would have been able to decline. He masters himself, stands up, faces you. When I found the triptych out in the Forgotten Quarter, I knew. This is justice for them. For me. There is a dangerous desperation in his face. The look of a man backed into a corner. And what of the Finger King? It indicated that a deal had been struck, a bargain made, and its end fulfilled. What did it ask for? What does it matter? The reply is whip-fast, and the painter looks surprised at himself a moment later. Please, he wanted what they all want. To exist. The Recondite Painter's eyes are fierce and wild, and green as the sea. What I'm doing? No possession. My body is mine, but the art will bring it into the world. He steps back and surveys the veiled triptych. I see it when I close my eyes. It will be made real, and London will remember us, remember me, for always. There it is. The Recondite Painter slumps into a stool. All of the panic with which he had confronted you is gone. This is an exhausted shell, nightshirt spattered with azure pigment, beard patchy and unevenly shaved. I'm keeping my word to myself. Lost friends, and yes, to that thing too. So we have three options. We can accuse the Recondite Painter of oath breaking. He promised the conjunction freedom in exchange for his fame, and yet the Finger King is still trapped in its mirrored prison, drowning beneath tides of paint. We can accuse him of holding and torturing a living being. It requires some creative interpretation of both living and being, but the point still stands. The painter's captive Finger King is in significant pain. Or we can congratulate him on his cunning achievement. It is not often that one gets one over on the fickle powers of the parabola. It is an act to be lauded, not excoriated. Let's go with the magnanimous choice here. I think I'm going to accuse him of holding and torturing a living being. His sea green eyes are wide and disbelieving. You can't believe it over me. It will say anything. It will do anything. The dreaming world is their canvas, and on it they paint what they want you to see. He bites his lip for a moment, hand rubbing his chin. A tiny spot of blood flowers between his teeth. Look, I'm honouring the deal, as faithfully as it would, in my position. I will not become yet another face hollowed out by the grasping fingers of the hidden kings. If you still have a will of your own, I caution you against aligning it with theirs. His voice trembles. He sways slightly. He is clearly exhausted. In the cavernous darkness of the London night, the Hollow Street Gallery looks like any other insalubrious squat in the spite, and the painter like 100 other vagrants. I'm an artist. This is all I know how to do. I can't know whether you're another of their agents, or just a habitual meddler. But I don't have it in me to fight you. Not anymore. Okay, we can convince him to release the Finger King. His actions are wrong, even if he does not allow himself to name the feeling. It is clear that guilt is eating him up from the inside. We can threaten him if he doesn't release the Finger King. The Recondite Painter will not willingly free his prisoner. Then he will do so unwillingly. We can tear down the veil and smash the triptych. Damn the both of them, destroy all hope of the Finger King's escape and eliminate the painter's masterwork all at once. Or we can leave him to complete his work. Revenge, justice, power, fame, restitution. Call it what he wants. He will not stand in the way of his ambition. I'm going to convince him to release the Finger King. You lay out your case, clear as glass. The Finger King trapped within his triptych has been there since before London's fall. It is not responsible for his friends' actions, nor their disappearances. And whatever he may be doing now, no matter the artistic merit or terms of previous bargains, the conjunction of absence wants no part of it. This is extortion at best, murder at worst. The painter's shoulders slump. He massages his temples. For a long moment there is silence. You're right. His voice is quiet, barely a whisper, but you fancy you can discern a hint of relief. Damn, But you're right. I'm better than they are. Fine. It will take some time. I will need that. He points to the pilfered scroll, still lying on the gallery floor where you left it. But I'll let the beast go, and then see if there is any artistry left in me to work with. The Recondite Painter gets to work rearranging candles and mirrors around the triptych. He refers to the scroll only rarely, as if he has long thought about performing this particular ritual. Please, he says at last. I'll do it, but it needs to be alone. It was a bargain made between the two of us, and that's the only way it can end. Let's leave the gallery. He will do what he promised this time, and this step is one he needs to complete alone. Hollow Street is dark. In London one is never entirely unwatched, but here, at this time, you are under fewer gazes than normal. The only sign of life as you walk the cobbles home is the orange flicker of candlelight from the painter's gallery. Everybody sensible is asleep at this hour. Perhaps, finally, you might be permitted to add yourself to their number. Find one final dream in the opportunity deck. Here we go, a dream of absence. The night after your final encounter with the Recondite Painter, you sleep deeply, untroubled by dreams of any kind. The next night, however, you receive a visitor in the gardens of Dream. The Ophidian gentleman smirks when he sees you, inclining his head. His tie tonight is pale, almost translucent, and writhes into a half Windsor. We can accept a gift. Not payment, you understand, for we did not ask you to perform any services. A gift. We knew you would function as an effective catalyst. Carries something ghostly and shimmering in his arms, and offers it to you with reverence. The conjunction of absence is free of its long incarceration. We give you its discarded self as a token of gratitude. The scales are smooth and pearlescent. The whole vast skin as light as a feather. Speaking personally, we thank you. We are bound to follow certain rules, both by our old masters in the Fourth and our new behind the glass. Our direct interference in another bargain was not permitted, and yet we greatly regret our involvement in the construction of that entanglement. You have extricated us from a significant quandary. The Ophidian gentleman performs an elaborate, formal bow. We wish you pleasant dreams. And here is the epilogue. It has been some time since you left the Recondite Painter in his Hollow Street gallery. Tastes have changed, fashions shifted, new darlings have entered and left the spotlight. How has he weathered London's fickle attention? Drawn by the gallery. Hollow Street is not part of any respectable individual's habitual perambulations, but you stroll where you please. There is a modest crowd within the gallery, circulating slowly around an exhibition space packed with canvases. The mood is sombre and muted, and it's easy to see why. Instead of wild, hallucinatory canvases of the Recondite Painter's previous exhibition, the walls are packed with hollow-eyed portraits. Beneath each is a little placard listing the subject's first name, their honey den of choice, and ultimate fate. This is how I'll honour them. Recondite Painter stands behind you, hands buried in his pockets. He has a smudge of paint on his cheekbone. No more dreams or deals. I had been leaning on it, using its skills instead of mine. No longer. He moves to stand beside you, meeting the assembled gazes of his paintings. I can't tell you if I did the right thing releasing it, but at least I know that my work is my own. This concludes the Hollow Triptych. And that is the end of February's exceptional story. That was a very interesting look into how the Finger Kings are in the parabola, so I enjoyed that quite a lot. It looks like the next exceptional story is out, so look forward to that at some point. But either way, thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Let me know if you picked a different ending. There seem to be a few there. And as always, I'll see you next time.